what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Shadowverse Worlds Beyond video. And today, we got a banger video because, yeah, boy, actually got Beyond rank today. So yeah, like fresh off of Beyond, I am going to make a guide. And do not worry, this is not some list that, oh, I climbed with a different craft and then I changed the craft on the last 5 games or something. And then I claim this is the Beyond deck. No, this is actually a deck that I climbed with from start to finish, right? Like by finish, I mean like reaching the point of Beyond, right? And it's not a Roach deck. I know a lot of you guys probably don't want to play Roach or want to play something else besides Roach because that has been the deck since season 1. You know, Forest is the lowest rated craft right now, right? I was always talking like crap about this craft for the longest of time. I've been saying that, oh, the only deck that's good is Roach, and even then Roach still loses to itself, yada yada, right? But apparently I've discovered like a better way, quote unquote, of piloting this deck, or like a better way of like constructing the ratios and like the card choices for this archetype. All right, so if you guys don't know what I'm talking about Evolved Forest. Yes, the same deck that I made a video back then. I was like, yo, this deck is garbage. But hey, what? Like I didn't expect to get my first Beyond with it, and since I got Beyond with it, I think it's proper. Like it's like perfect timing that I make a guide for you guys to like maybe try it out, climb the ladder with it, and maybe have a fun. Maybe have fun, like a fresher take on the lowest craft like deck right now. So yeah, I'll be sectioning this guide into multiple sections right here, from the mulligan to the matchup specific cards. What role does each card serve like on their purpose, right, into matchups, the cards that you use for finishing games or like pushing win con, notable cards that you can change and add that I also tested during my climb that is also really good, and of course, the main deck. So yeah, this is what the deck looks like, right? As you can see on the screen, we have only times 2 of Erin, only times 2 of Congregant, and only 1 copy of Lyria, right? As you can see, I have a huge emphasis on having a more consistent early game because I heavily believe that you cannot function, this deck cannot function or cannot play proactively unless you take over the board in the early game. That is the reason why I decided to play Evo Forest more as a proactive deck, not really a full-blown tempo deck, but you kind of want to play as if it is a tempo deck, and then so you can progress your win con, right, of Yuel Crest and like AVR evolves without, without like getting rushed down by the enemy. So yeah, with that also I added 2 cinchas, right? I'll explain like why she's my choice in a bit. Like these are the ratios that are settled with. This is the exact deck that I climbed with Beyond. And with that, let's go continue with the mulligan. Alright. So about the mulligan real quick. So mulligan is really straightforward. You just want 2 drops and Miraku, right? You just want 2 drops in Miraku, right? Sometimes you do want to keep cards like Yuel because Yuel doesn't have a tutor, meaning you have to hard join to her, right? Though I heavily suggest do not keep Yuel if you're against an aggro matchup. So if you get like a sword matchup and you suspect this is like quick blader ulu, like quick blader start like into like slash like Zeta Uluwon or Odin, right? Like basically the non-loot aggro sword deck, right? Like you do not want to keep this card because you would typically you typically won't even be playing this card in that matchup. But yeah, like in the loot matchup it's fine, but yeah, I wouldn't take my chances. Basically, I would not take my chances. 2 drops, of course, is really important. Chereta can prevent early game damage and force like trades because they have ward. Also really good, really good in the late game. But yeah, like you want to keep any 2 drops. Fairy Fencer, BIS keep is Fairy Fencer because Fairy Fencer is not only a 2 mana 2/2, but it's also a 3 mana play. So if you guys remember, there's like a card like a Devotee, right, in Swordcraft, which is a 2 mana 2/1 that can like print a boot, like a boot loot card. Fair Fencer is kind of similar. Another similar card is like a like a Lancer, right? Like a Lancer where you can use them as a 2 mana card, but they can also use your mana efficiently for turn 3. So Fair Fencer is like BIS for that. Like if you have this in the early game, you have a very legit shot of like taking over the board or at least breaking even at worst. Miroku, another BIS keep, right? If you have Miroku and you have Fencer in the starting hand, keep it. Do not let them go. They will make sure you have the smoothest early game imaginable. Even puppet lines do not like sway your tempo. At worst, at the very worst, let's say they draw the nuts. Maybe they draw something like Puppeteer into Imari transform. They would have to do stuff like that, which is a big commitment, right? Especially because they're gonna have to use their Imari juice just to stop your tempo. And even then, they're not even gonna be like stomping you or taking over the board. So yeah. Like Lyria, you can keep Lyria if you get it's only a one-off in the deck. So Lyria is fine to keep, of course, but mostly just because you really want a turn 2 play, right? If you don't have any turn 2s in your hand and only Lyria shows up in your mulligan, of course, keep. Every year, Rush, of course, really good card, right? Sencha, now, this is where it gets a little different from the other evil lists that you've seen on the internet. Sencha, the reason why I use this card because it forces people to not be able to clear on their evil turn. So, Sencha summons 2 fairies on the board, meaning two things take up the board for you. That means if they have a random proc, let's say Lishena Evolve, right? Lishena Evolve, and like the spell is gonna be random. Like Galmio, like Galmio effect, it's gonna be random, right? Let's say you have a 2/2 and you have this Sincha card. They Galmio evolve into the 4/3. The random hit could hit a fairy. Lishena as well. Lishena's gonna evolve, and if you have a ward, let's say you have a Chereta early game, Lishena is forced to trade into the ward, and then she has to pray that it doesn't hit a fairy. So you get what I mean? This card kind of forces RNG clears, and not only that, she also gives you a hard punish for when they don't clear your skipper, because sometimes people play into this card and they don't respect the fairies because they're like, oh, I can do more damage than you, right? Like you're just an evil deck. But if you have like Sincha as a threat or like as a punish on or before, it is really good, right? And of course, you can keep Glade if you're going second as well. Let's say there's a Zwei, maybe it's Puppet, or you just want like a more consistent like a card draw, right? When to clear turn 5, you want to equalize. Just do know, Glade evolve into Sword is very dangerous, and the reason why is because if you evolve Glade, you're gonna get hit by 5 by a Zeta. So just an important note about that. Typically, I do this thing where I would evolve Miroku and clear with Miroku, and then like try to get one of the recover 2 play points and then play Glade just so I have a wider board. Very important thing to note against those matchups. But yeah, Spirit and Skipper, typically you use this card as the RNG checker, like similar to Sincha. Another thing is, of course, it kind of like makes cards like Congregant, cards like the Congregant Sword and the Congregant Portal Craft card be kind of garbage because they have to like RNG the clear, and also it forces out evolves, right? Sometimes I've even won games where I super evolve Skipper, even though there isn't like a big board to clear, right? And of course, like against big boards, aka Wardhaven and stuff, you can use Skipper for the Ether turns. So yeah, Skipper is literally one of the best cards in this deck because of the combination of the fact that you can flood the board, force RNG, force out congregant checks, and force out early commitment of cards that they would want to use at later stages of the game, right? For example, the best example actually is against Egg. If you play this card against Egg, typically they would have to Congregant to clear or Artisan Flowerer, like the 5 mana, but the 5 mana card, but they only run one of those. So yeah. All right. So yeah, that's like the mulligan, right? Just remember, like you're kind of playing like Temple Forest, simply put. You're kind of playing like Temple Forest at the start, and the only two cards that you typically want to keep is Miroku and Fairy Fencer. If you get two Fairy Fencers, keep them both. By the way, it's really really good. And if you already have a good hand, let's say you have two Fairy Fencers and a Miroku, if you have a UL in your hand, just keep it at that point. Yeah, because like I said, there's no tutor for this thing. All right, moving on, matchup specific. So why did I make this section is because I want you guys to understand what roles do the cards play against specific matchups. So for example, Cheretta on UL Crest, this becomes a 2 mana for 7 rush, right? So that's good into a lot of Odin lines, basically, right? If you well super evolve and you play Cheretta, they can't Odin. Because if they Odin, they would have to super evolve to clear your Cheretta. Meaning, if let's say their loot sword, they would have to commit a super, like they would have to commit their Sincero early, which allows you to play healing cards in order to escape the Albert Lita line. Stuff like that is really good, right? Any deck that runs Odin, like Cheretta, is really good. Any deck that has a very aggressive line that wants to end at turn 7 and turn 7 to turn 9, Cheretta is really good with that, right? And there are also a lot of instances where like you are dead to, let's say, Genesis Dragon, or you are getting stormed every turn by a dragon, or like straight up like against decks that just try to face rush you. Charetta is a good band-aid solution, right? Not only in the later stage of the game, but in the early stage of the game as well. Let's say Sword. They play Quick Blader, you play Charetta, suddenly the Quick Blader cannot hit, right? And if they want to hit the face with Quick Blader, they would have to commit a spell. Meaning, if they play turn 1 Quick Blader and you play Cheretta and they play the spell, they don't have another like card to use anymore because they're gonna be out of mana to like make the board stronger. So that means like you get to equalize the board right away, or just like, save you 2 HP straight up. All right. So next up, Miroku. Of course, Miroku. The way you use this is typically against 2/2/2s, or like a 3/3 statted like cards. For example, Yudi, right? Yudi is a 3/3. Like Miroku can trade that 1/1. You can use this card to kill Octris, right? So it's gonna be on tempo. You play a 2/2, right? Like you play a 2/2, they play like a 1/2, a 1/1. You trade the 2/2 into the 1/1/1/2, or like even trade. They play Octris, you play this card, and they don't have tempo from there, right? This can also kill Puppeteer plus Lancer opener. So let's say they played, like Puppeteer at first, and then like let's say you passed, right? Let's say, oh, I don't have a turn 2, or you played something weak like Illyria, and then they just go hit your face, and then they play a Lancer, and then like of course they wouldn't want to use their puppets on the Illyria, right? You would play Miroku, and then suddenly tempo swings in your favor, right? Situations like that is where Miroku is really good. And of course, you can also do some funny stuff like making your board wider by using the recover 2 play points to enable like the use of skipper. Let's say it's an empty board and you have 5 mana and you have Miroku and skipper in the hand. You can literally use them both on the same turn to make your board a 4/4 4/3 and then 3 fairies. It's really strong if you use it that way against a lot of matchups, right? So take note of that. Of course, we have Gilnelis. Really, really important to play in between your evolve burst turns, because this will delay the lethal of the enemy by 1 turn. So a good example is, of course, against Sword, they play Sincero, and then you play like Cheretta, and then you super evolve Gilnelis. Do remember that you evolve, when you evolve UL, right, the crest will evolve the first thing that you summon. So be sure to play something else first, so you get more value with your Gilnelisil, unless you don't actually need it. So yeah, just an important thing to note there. Of course, you can also use the sweetness to like secure games, but you rarely need this. You rarely need to use this. So let's say it's turn 9 and you need to delay the lethal. Don't greed for this. Do not greed for this if you can afford to, right? Because like yeah, because like you have a lot of like you have a lot of cards that you have a lot of cards that synergize well with Sandalphon, and Sweetness is not one of those cards. So yeah. Moving on, of course, Sincha. I already talked about this card. Her role is to literally just be a punish and a tempo, like a tempo card. And this is also a 4 mana card. What does that mean? If you have an evolve point, you can Sincha, evolve the Sincha. Like there's gonna be like maybe a 6/5 Sincha or a 7/5 Sincha, right? Depending on what evolve point you use. And then 2/1 fairies. You can clear the enemy board with that. Let's say it's an Albert. Let's say he plays Albert, he pings her face twice, and they're like 10 HP. Evolve Sincha, and then clear the Albert, play the Sandalphon. Right? This is literally 10 damage. Right? You're like, oh, only Dancho and like only Dancho and Kupitan are combos with Sandalphon. No. Sincha is not only a card that can help you win the early game, not only a punish card, but also a card that can combo with Sandalphon. And you're like, oh, but I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna be out of evolve points. That's what Ariar is there for, right? Ariar can like give you like Ariar can give you that evolve point that can activate like strong evolve effects like this. Even in the late game, it can activate your Gilnelis evolve, it can activate your Miracle evolve, your Glade evolve, right? Your Skipper evolve, your Sincha evolve. So yeah, like Sincha being a 4 mana card, like made me realize that yo, what's a 4 mana card that can work with Sandalphon? Right? And I'm like, oh, it's only like Kopitan and Dancho, like a Graningita. So, like, but why not Sincha? So I decided to use it, right? And trust me, it's legit. You just need to know the lines and how to properly use her. And she can steal a lot of games from even meta matchups. All right, Skipper, we already talked about, right? Ether board, like Ether board for Wardhaven can also like flood the board versus sword so they don't zeta you, can also flood the board versus like eggs so they have to congregant early, right? A lot of uses for this card. It's busted actually, in my opinion. This card's kind of busted. So yeah, don't forget to like play your skippers. Now Erin is like another Chereta. Right? Erin has a multiple like roles. So one of them of course is like putting up something that can't be killed by Beelzebub. So like, oh, what do you mean can't be killed by Beelzebub? If you play Erin with the UL crest, Erin becomes an 8/10. So meaning Beelzebub doesn't kill it. Albert cannot like pierce through it. And like what you call it? It's the perfect card to play after Sincero. Let's say they play Sincero, you play Erin, it's an 8/10. They cannot like finish the game with Albert, right? Oh, but the Odin exists. Yeah, but like if they play Odin and then you suddenly like play stuff like Kongan afterwards, they still can't finish you with Albert. This is the perfect in between card before you do your final blow, or this is the best in between card to play for when you are trying to deny them their finishing like line, so you can actually like play the game normally. So yeah. All right, Kongan of course like is kind of like the same as like the philosophy with the Sincha Skipper, but this one is the ultra punishing like version of them, because this literally would secure you lethals if they're not able to clear it. Of course, like stuff like Dragon is gonna be able to clear this efficiently. Congregant will leave one up, right? But the main point here is this is a card that they have to answer because it's literally 20 damage. So the only way they can actually board lock you is if they like transform two of the congregant, like two of the congregant, or like yeah, two of the congregant like of unkilling in your board, which reduces 2 damage. So, and if you don't have an evolve point, they can board lock you if they have 20 HP. That's a very rare case, right? But for the most part, you get like full value on this every single time. Deny Albert, deny Bobs, right? If you get to play this before they get to play Bobs, they just don't want to play Bobs. If they do play Bobs, you kill them with a Sandal Fawn, like a Sandal Fawn like follow up. So yeah, right. So those are like some of the usage. Of course, Glade. We all know what Glade does already, right? Like draw card, kills Y, kill like Zirconia. Yeah, we all know that already, right? So another important thing to note, by the way, is since I mentioned Zirconia, it's important to set up Zirconia being a weak turn by playing like multiple units or playing a unit with a decently high attack. So let's say you're going second, you predict that they're gonna play Zirconia. Don't be afraid to just pre-evolve something, right? Let's say turn 4 you played like Graninjita, right? Let's say you played Graninjita on turn 4, and then you're like, oh, I think it's gonna Zerk. Don't be afraid to just to normal evolve this, because like you want to use up all your evolve points, because if you have area in the hand, he gets the SBA exactly on the UL turn. Yeah, the moment you super evolve UL, AER's recover SBA already gets like unlocked. Assuming you evolve 2 times before the and AER's in your hand. So that's like a pro tip, I guess. So yeah, combo cards, these are the cards that will be used for finishing the game. So you can add Sincha here actually, because it's also a 4 mana card. Any card that's like 4 mana and below can be used to combo with Sandalphon. Alright? Now of course there's niche cases where you have Veracity in the hand, then you have coin, you can Veracity Sandalphon, but like we're gonna be talking about like the general like cases here. So Fairy Fencer, if you have UL Crest, you can use Fairy Fencer, like play it with the UL Crest, she becomes a 4/4. You play the fairy, you evolve the fairy, you clear the board with these 2 evolve units, and then you Sandalphon. You can Sandalphon as early as turn 9 with that combo. Miroku as well, of course, right? You can Sandalphon as early as around turn 8, if you line it up correctly with the recover 2 play points and you clear the board, right? There are cases like that. Kupitan and Sandalphon is the best combo, just because of the fact that she can do 3 damage and clear the board, because she does like 12 total damage to the board, like 12 total damage to the board, 5 from the normal evo, from like her being a 5/4 rush, 7 pings, right? So it's good versus barriers. So yeah, like 13 damage to the face is really neat. Graninjita, of course, is a classic. Any evolved deck does that. 5 damage to a big unit, then hit it, and then you have a Sandy. Like Gilnelis is something that you can play with Sandalphon as well, especially if you have an evolve point. So let's say you have a fairy in hand, you have something lower cost like Fairy Fencer. You can perhaps use that, or you can also use Miroku Recover, because if you recover 2 play points, this is equal to 1. You can do that, right? Like use that for the UL Crest, clear the board with it, right? Gilnily super evolve, so you can delay their lethal by 1 turn, and then afterwards use Sandalphon. Heal for 5, deal 10. That's a really, really strong line. So yeah. Don't sleep on this combo. It's really, really good. Consistency wise, of course, it requires you to draw into like your payoffs, but I think Evolve Forest has they kinda have like enough payoffs, like when you think about it. So if you evolve aggressively, you get the payoff from Ariar, you get a payoff from Sandalphon. You run 3 in this deck, so the chances of you having one of them in your hand getting juiced up early is really good. Really good chances of that. Of course, you have Kupitan, right? And you have Dancho, you have Graninjita. So you have 3 cards that like reward you for evolving aggressively. And yeah, that's it. You just want to try to outvalue your opponent, outtempo your opponent, and then deny their lines at the turn 7 to turn 9, and then finish them off with a turn 10 Sandy combo. Whether or not that's off of Congregant, or Congregant sticking or Skipper sticking, you have to like navigate the lines where you board check them a lot. So yeah. Uh like notable cards, all right? Let's go to the notable card section real quick. So these are cards that I think that could be added to the deck, but of course it's your choice, right? One of them of course is Comet Drive, right? You can use this for cardio and removal in the early game and also during like the first few evolves that you're gonna do. The reason why I don't use it in my list is because it's not a unit. You know, like I want to take over the board. I want to like be able to make my board bigger and harder to clear for the enemy, force out resources from the enemy, deny lines. And if I'm using 2 mana to not like a print like a print like a unit or value trade a unit, then I think it's less value than like a typical 2 drop would give. But it's not a bad card because it gives you draw. So it improves the consistency of the deck in a way, and it helps to clear those like very pesky dragon boards post Fenny. And of course, Cruel is really good against, you guessed it, this deck. This Cruel is actually good into this deck because it clears Skipper really efficiently, and it could also like deal with aggro, like aggro abyss, aggro sword, basically anything that can flood the board, maybe zombies and stuff. Cruel is really great into that. Can clear Neptune, right? Like you use Cruel, use another card, and like it clears like all the two-twos very efficiently. You can also use this crest to deny people, to deny like people like playing Orcus or playing Albert for 1 turn. But the reason why I don't run Cruel in this evolved deck is because it's kind of low statted and it's something that you want to stick in the board but not really pressure with. Yeah, like what I mean, it's not a threat. You don't really use this as a threat to hit face. You use this as a reactive defensive option. All right, but like so, I think this card is more suited for decks like Izudia instead of Evil Forest. All right. Speaking of reactive defensive options, we also have Fairy Beast Whisperer. The version of Dian, actually, like one of the top forest plays from Japan, actually runs this card. But, big but, on Evolve, she's a 4/8, which actually is good. You can remove anything that doesn't have like the like cannot be destroyed like buff, right? And you can heal off of it, which is nice. But I think Guild Elise is actually enough healing. Because the thing is with Fairy Beast Whisperer, it doesn't really make a wide board and it consumes your entire turn. Right? I don't want to use a card that doesn't print like a big board, right? As my turn. Like instead of a skipper, I'm playing this. It's really weak, right? Like though it's good into decks like Agrobis or Puppet Portal, I don't think this card is good into like Egg, which is very meta right now. I don't think this card is also good into Dragon unless you're fighting specifically Storm Dragon, and also this card also doesn't deal with Intimidate. So yeah, like this is a good card. I think she's really cute as well. But yeah, like if she wasn't 5 mana, let's say she was like a 4 mana 1/5 or something, or 4 mana 2/4. 4 mana 2/4 actually not bad, right? 4 mana 2/4, like I would actually consider this card, but since she's a 5 mana card, I think that she's a little bit too weak for the type of playstyle that I climb beyond with. It's really slow basically. So yeah, Limaga is a good option if you want to actually like do this thing where you break their board by disabling them from flooding like a putting up more threats. So it's good versus what? Like Abyss, stuff like that. It's good against Abyss. It's also good against like decks that like don't really have a lot of healing, because you can do this thing where you Lumaga super evolve, you clear the board that way. Suddenly they have to answer a 10/10 with only 3 slots, and also like afterwards they have to heal as well to deal with Sandalphon burst. It's a good card, but if you're ever gonna run Limaga, just run it as a one-off. Like I prefer more consistency. So that's why I don't run Limaga. Ko is also a good option because you have Uel Crest, right? Uel Crest, like this card becomes destroy 2 and heal for 6. The issue with this card is kind of like the same issue I have with cards like Limaga and Fairy Beast Whisperer, and is the fact that you don't make a wide board. And as you've noticed, a lot of the philosophy in my in my Evo like forest has to do with making the board wider and stronger, wide and tall, right? Like wide with Skipper, wide with Sincha, wide with Congregant, wide with the fairy cards and all that. Evolve whatever sticks, and then play tall with you well. Force out their super evolves, right? AKA Sincero and like all that stuff, right? And then you play out your win con that way. It's very simple, right? Oh my god, I yapped a lot already. It's been half an hour, but yeah. I'll show you guys some gameplay, right? I'll show you guys some gameplay. I saved some footage actually. I've saved some footage right here so I can explain like the thought process, right? So we have a Havencraft replay, a Portal Craft, and a Sword Craft. So this is loot, this is egg, and this is like Kokishiro. So let's get right into it. Alright. So first match we have against like Havencraft Kokishiro. Alright, so this is this was also from today. Alright. So against Kokishiro, you typically wanna check if they have Salefa, right? So you keep a 2-drop, Miroku's really good keep. Like I said, 2-drop plus Miroku's really good keep, right? They play they play Goblin, kinda whatever, right? Like you just ignore that, right? Play Chereta next turn, really good, right? 2-2. This doesn't get to hit your face now all of a sudden, right? Unless they play something like this, right? Now this board, you're like, oh, 2-2-1-1. This is where Miroku comes into play. They can try to like get the tempo from you, but they really can't. Now suddenly you're going into this turn evolving, so they don't want to play Grimnir, right? Because you can evolve, and this is where Skipper comes into play, right? And this, very important note by the way, if you've noticed, I evolved it, right? If you've noticed, I evolved it, right? So, what is the reasoning behind evolving the Skipper? Oh, it's gonna die to Salefa anyway. Why would you evolve it? Simple. As you can see in my hand, I don't really have a good answer for killing Salefa, right? It would be very inefficient to evolve a Gilmelis to kill a Salefa, right? But, if I pre-evolve Skipper, if you play Salefa over here, the Salefa kills himself because it's a 5-5, turns into a 6-6. Luckily, he doesn't have Salefa, right? And this is where the juice comes in. Right? Remember what I said about Sincha being a good punish? Right? Suddenly, I'm playing like Tempo Forest here. Right? I'm an evolved deck, but I'm making use of the fact that I don't really like care about my evolve points because I am an evolved deck. So I can use this evolves to like play like a tempo deck now all of a sudden. Right? Now before this guy gets to play Kokishiro, he's already cooked. Now he's gonna play Wilbert. Yeah, we don't have Odin. Doesn't matter though. Right. Going to trade he's going to trade like Sincha over here. It's a 2 HP. And suddenly we have lethal here. I mean not lethal, but it's really close to lethal actually. Yeah, it's really close to lethal. So Erin, super evolve here. Makes it so that he has to deal with a 9-11 ward and this. Another important thing to note here in this a specific game is like I am forcing him to have Grimnir Crest and to play Kokishiro off curve, right? He decided to be very He decided to be very stubborn with it, and he played like Kokishiro on curve still. So he can kill the two once. Right. If he had like a Grimnir Crest here, he would have cleared. But that doesn't change the fact that he's kind of cooked right now, right? Because we have like a Kupitan that's cooking, and we also have a Lyria that can join to an Erin again, and we can stall the game out with Gilnelis. We have Ariar as well. As you can see, the options are massive for us. But this is already lethal. Right. Just like don't forget to check your SBAs all the time. So this lethal is possible because like I set it up with the tempo, right? Alright. So you might be saying, yo, Nero, that's kind of lucky though, right? Like that line was kind of lucky. You top deck the options for you to do what you just did. You kind of like dodge Salefa as well. That's valid, right? But it's I'm just highlighting here the potential lines that you can do even though you're not like high rolling evolve with Sandalphon in hand. So yeah. Speaking of high roll, right? Let's go check out this replay, which is gonna be an egg replay. You know, we all know egg, right? Like really hard to deal with. So this is like when I'm really close. This match was when I was really close to Beyond, right? It's against egg, and this guy's an SVO competitor. Just realized that. So yeah, let's take a look see on what we did here. So we kept Sencha, I think, right? And we're going first. Going first or going second Sencha is good. Sencha could be a 2-drop into a coin Sencha play. If you have that, if you have like Gran and Jita in the hand. Or it could be just a good turn 4 play. So you can see over here, I play Lyria, then I play Miroku here, right? He can't like value trade anything with a puppet. Literally cannot value trade anything with a puppet here, so it's really strong right here, right? So it's gonna use Wayside. Like this shows that he's egg. This is what I was talking about earlier. This is the type of cards they have to commit in order to stop you from taking over the board. Speaking of taking over the board, as you can see over here, I decided to make a 4 slot board. So what does this do? Lishena has to let 2 like fairies live. That, and they also have to use coin. You see what I mean here? Like, you want to make them play their key cards into like situations like this. This is like if you are against dragon, you want to trade the fairy instead, so you keep the barrier because there's a chance that Galmu hits the barrier. But for this situation, I think it's better to keep it wide like this. Right. Whatever the case, like Lyria can tank like 1 damage instance anyway, right? He's gonna be forced to coin here. There you go. Goes for the Gamba, good order. Then suddenly you have a 2 HP Leshena here, right? So what I wanna do here is skipper. Now look at this state. There's 1 Storm Fairy that's available, and we managed to print like a wide board again. And then we're gonna evolve the fairy. If he plays Lishena again, he can only clear 2 again. Right? So we get what I mean? Like suddenly you're just evolving the thing that sticks. Right. And this is great because look what's in the hand. We have 2 Sandalphons and we have an Ariar. Right? Now this is our RNG clear. Right? This is really important to do against eggs specifically because they have to rely on RNG. 50-50 and he lost it. He has to hit the skipper. Now look at this situation. Suddenly we can like evolve another fairy. We can evolve another fairy here. I decided to like use Ariar like early here. Like we didn't get the SBA payoff with him here, but I thought that like I don't have UL in my hand, so I kind of have to like secure this game early. So this is what I did instead. Right. So yeah, those are like 2 fairies that stuck because of Skipper and Sencha. Right? And now it's like something that's forcing him to not make eggs but instead heal. Right? Now he's scared of Sandalphon. He wants to heal now. Alright. Now he still gets to manage. He still managed to make 3 eggs. Now you're like in a situation where you're like, oh no. Right? This situation, yep, I'm actually going to super evolve Skipper. Now what does this do? Right? It forces you to maintain the board. Whatever he makes, you can bane it unless it's a Lishena or an Aksha, right? If you do this into Bubs, you can kill the Bubs and then Sandalphon. So as you can see over here, he can't deal with it, so he just Odins. He could have Congregant, but doesn't matter. So I'm gonna do this thing where I attack with the fairy, I suicide the fairy with the Gilnelis, and then I delay his lethal by 1 turn. Right? I evolve this, which also progresses my Sandy. Then we draw. Right? I mean, we could have drawn first actually. So the order could have been better. The order could have been better here, but yeah. Alright, so this part, he probably wants to Bobs. But if he uses Bobs, like I said, he's gonna eat Sandalphon so hard here. So instead he uses like Aksha here. He really wants to prevent the Sandalphon lethal. He's kinda like panicking right now. And it's not really like a bad like Aksha angle. Because he can kill me with Gilnelis next turn. Yeah, he could legit kill me with Gilnelis next turn. So what I did here was Kupitan and then Miroku, if I remember correctly. So I can hit the face for 5. Look at this. All of this is sticking. Right, all of this is sticking. It's another 5 board. See? Very aggressive wide board. If he plays Kongregant here, there's a huge chance a 5-4 sticks. Right? Use a huge chance of 5-4 sticks. And if a 5-4 sticks, we win. Case in point. 5-4 sticks. Right? Now we can do Miroku or Dancho lethal. Probably Miroku lethal. Miroku lethal, Sandalphon, go face. And yeah, there we go. We beat Egg. We have to kill him in that turn though, because he could potentially have Gilnelis. If he doesn't have Gilnelis, we can probably still win, assuming he doesn't have Odin and stuff. But yeah. You get the type of blinds that I'm trying to explain. It's very kind of like tempo foresty in a way. And for the last replay I'll be showing the match that got me beyond. This is literally the match that secured my beyond. It was like 1962 CR versus 1900 CR. It's against Loot Sword. I actually like this matchup. So this is a banger hand, by the way. This is a really banger hand. Fencer Miroku. I was like, damn, I'm definitely gonna get beyond with this hand. Right? I don't really care that much of what comes after next. As long as I have this 2 at the start, it's massive. Sincha on curb is gonna be massive once again. He coins Octress. Very interesting. But we have the exact answer. Right? We have the exact answer for our 3-3, which is Miroku. Right. Suddenly we have like 2 2/2s, and he only has 3 mana to answer. Right. Can only clear 1 here. He's probably gonna clear Miroku. Alright. So right now, see this? Now see the state, right? See the state. He's going to to have 4 mana next turn, and he's going to evolve. Right? What we can do here is either we play Chereta Fairy or Eviar Fairy, or we can play Sincha. Either or works, because the goal here is to prevent him to do any lines that can hit our face. I went with Sincha. Because this makes Kongregant harder to clear, it forces out an Evo, and it forces him to have fuse cards. So he doesn't have Kongregant, instead he's gonna evolve Vals here. Right? Kongregant is kinda like RNG to full clear this anyway, especially with that mana. Right. So for this, you see, this is the same exact mindset. Same exact mindset for like when we were fighting like an egg. Anything that sticks, you evolve. Something sticks, evolve it, hit face. Right? Now he's gonna like evolve again here. Right? Going to evolve again here. 4-3. Right? This would have been like Kongregant. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter that much. We have the tempo. It's kind of low. Okay, so over here, I think I did a misplay here. Yeah, I remember this misplay. So over here, I'm supposed to evolve the Fencer to juice up my area next turn. Right? Because if you evolve here, this becomes an 8. Right? 8 right now. So he does his turn, I do my turn, it becomes a 9. So if I super evolve UL, it becomes a 10. And then this will also refund the evolve point that I'm going to use over here. But I should have just evolved the Fencer here instead of, yeah, look what I'm gonna do here. Yep. Yep. Yeah, I should have just rushed the fairy over here and then evolved this. Hey man, we're human after all. So now this is what happens. This is what happens when you have a singular unit on turn 6, turn 5. You are very susceptible to getting hit by the Zeta. So this is like, I couldn't have avoided it anyway. Even if I evolved Fairy Fencer here, I still would have been dead to the Bane, right? But if let's say I had a Chereta here, and then evolved Fencer, this would have meant that he would have to tank 4 in order to like go face. But since I only put up 1, then like I would just have to tank this. But this is the good part. Since we forced out his evolve turns earlier by playing aggressively, he doesn't have an evolve for Zeta anymore. So this is only 3 damage. Alright. So right here, right, like I said earlier, you super evolve the UL, suddenly becomes 10. Right? Then you get your evolve point back, and you get a big board. So what does this board aim to do? Number 1, it makes Odin weird. If he plays Odin here, Odin's a 7-6, probably wants to hit the face. But this is a 4-3. And since we pressured him earlier, it's kind of low, probably don't want to tank that, right? So, like, he probably would be Odining the UL and then hitting the AVR. Or, committing his Sincero. Another thing that he can do is like use the spell in Zeta, which I think he's gonna do here. So over here, he definitely has an Albert line, right? As you can see over here, he set me up for Albert Lethal. But remember what we talked about earlier? Erin being the perfect in-between card for like lines like this, right? And with UL Crest, it's an 8-10. Look at that. Albert cannot pierce through this. He needs to attack 2 times to pierce through this. Right. Which means you don't get hit in the face. Meaning he would have to commit all his loot. This also denies him having Albert like 14 damage. Right. And after that, we're gonna deny Albert again. And since we have the area evolve earlier because we evolved aggressively, we still have juice to evolve here. We're going to evolve the 3 HP ward because this will die to Albert, right? Like any ward that dies to Albert, we're gonna evolve that. And there you have it. I won this match through like literally just like denying their lines while also like speed running my WinCon. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them down below at the comment section below, right? Like, I hope that this yapping session actually, like, got you somewhat. Like, let me know if there's anything that's confusing. This is by no means a tier 1 deck. This is probably a tier 3, tier 4 deck. But since I got beyond with it, I suddenly have this bias towards the thought process of, yo, this deck might be underrated because, like if I could get beyond with it, I think like most people can because, as you can see from my replays, I wasn't even playing perfect. So yeah, if you guys like the video, like it, subscribe, watch the Twitch if you watch the Twitch channel and like the YouTube lives if you want to see me play live, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a nice weekend, everybody. Bye bye.